And I believe that we are live. Perfect. So obviously we will wait 5 more minutes to start with the webinar.
So I'm gonna broadcast this in another 2 minutes, guys.
Okay.
We are live on YouTube now.
Perfect. Let me check. I'm gonna access from my mobile with that link that I shared on LinkedIn and see if it works. Yes, all looks good. Awesome. Thank you. Caroline, just looking at this picture on the screen and the view that I have from my condo is like, wow, I need to feel like a vacation. I can't wait to travel. I don't know about you, but I'm really, really hoping to travel soon.
Yeah, I mean, the weekend was so lovely with the warm weather, and you actually saw, I live a block from Lake Michigan, so just on the beaches, and there's actually people out and about, and it just brings a whole level of activity, especially having been quarantined in the Midwest and Chicago with such variable weather. It was nice to have that little break of sunshine, and it was a teaser to your point. I'm like, oh, where can I have more often? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely need two things: the summer and vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was talking to my husband, what should we do? We were thinking either Hawaii or a road trip in the middle of New Mexico and Colorado.
You know, it's so interesting. I was in Hawaii the week that, because I was in Hawaii when South by Southwest canceled. And so I was like looking back on the timing of that, and I hadn't taken a vacation like that in like a year. So I was in Maui for a week.
Oh my goodness, I love Maui. It's a wonderful place.
Yeah, it was the first time. I've been to Kona, but there's definitely a really cool vibe in Maui. And again, just looking at the timing of how that all played out, very fortunate to have gone on vacation and got back before everything being restricted. So
sure. Did you go out? Did you go up all the way to Haleakala to see the sunrise?
We did, although we didn't see the sunrise, but we did get up at 3 a.m. for that. Yep.
Wonderful. Okay, perfect. So it looks like we are gonna go live in 1 minute. So 1 more minute to go. Okay, so we are live on YouTube, just 1 more minute and we will start at 11 a.m. East sharp. Okay, so it's about time. It's 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we are live now on YouTube. And if you have joined us on Zoom, we also want to welcome you. So thank you so much. This is our webinar about the role of social media in hotels recovery in COVID-19 world. So before talking about the introductions and a little bit about the topic that we are going to cover today, I wanted to share a couple of house rules. One, obviously we are live and we are recording this. So we will be definitely sharing this recording with all of you. And if you are watching us at a later time, thank you for watching the recording. Obviously, for those that join us on YouTube or on Zoom, we are open for questions. You have two options. You can either ask us on YouTube or you can ask us here on the chat. And please don't be shy. Caroline and I are here to answer any questions you may have. Of course, we will have our Q&A all the way at the end. So we will plan to spend a few minutes at the end answering all of your questions. And if we are running out of time, you are always welcome to reach out to us via LinkedIn or via email, and we will be more than happy to answer those questions. And well, again, let's keep this interactive. This is meant to be an open environment for all of us. We are all in the same boat. Obviously, I want to welcome Caroline Hosna, that she's here with us today. She's Vice President of Marketing at Wild Lodging. She joined Wild Lodging, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2009, right? So a long time ago. And of course, she's leading the digital strategy and the brand's development and activation for the Wild Lodging Group, which means plus 90 hotels. Caroline, if you could just introduce yourself to the attendees, that would be fantastic.
Hey, well, good. Hello, everyone. Mercedes, thank you for the introduction. I am a Vice President of Marketing at White Lodging. So we're a management company, owner, and developer. Leading branding, digital strategy for about 90 flagged properties just in North America, as well as around 60 independent restaurants. We have a gorgeous independent luxury resort in called Brush Creek Ranch in Saratoga, Wyoming, which is the #1 resort in the US by Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast. So I help with social strategy there as well. And then also kind of help develop a social strategy for our White Lodging employment brand. So kind of have a varied background, and happy to be here today and answer any questions and share some and have some good dialogue.
Yeah, and obviously let's not forget that you've been one of those wonderful marketing minds according to HSMAI. So it's a pleasure to have you with us today. And you and I, we've been partnering and working together for a long time. And I am very much appreciative about the fact that you are here with us. So thank you so much. And a little bit about me. I am sure that you all can pick my accent. I'm originally from Spain. I moved to the States 6 years ago, and I work at BCV in charge of the sales Americas team. I am certified digital marketer by Harvard and proud I Business School alumni in my country, in Spain. And I am definitely happy to be talking about social media today. So now that we've established who we are, let's talk about who's BCV. I'm sure that if you are joining this webinar today is because you are somehow familiar with what we do, but just a quick intro. We've been awarded as the hospitality premier social media provider. And we basically do two things, social media and hospitality. And that's why we are here today, talking about the roles of social media in the path towards the recovery, right? We've been in the market for 10 years and growing internationally now under Ray Games umbrella. So now BCV is a Ray Game company. So let's talk about what really brought us here today, social media and COVID-19. Before talking about COVID-19, I like to set up the foundation on why social media matters in hospitality itself, right? There are two things that I want you to remember. One is that social media is becoming the new Google. When you are thinking about traveling, instead of Googling, you Instagram it, right? You go to social media to look what your experience look like. So right now we are seeing that approximately 80% of the worldwide travelers, they go to social media in that search for inspiration. And what it matters the most is that 33% of them are going to change their minds after what they see in social media. So social media matters when you are thinking about traveling, right? And now that we are locked down, we are all thinking what is our next destination. Then when you are traveling, this is all about sharing your lovely experience. So we normally say that 3 out of 4 people is likely gonna share about their experience, and they are expecting a response in real time. So there you go. We have the importance of social media before and during the trip. And by monitoring and engaging and talking to them during the trip, you can improve your customer experience and therefore your reputation both online and offline. So let's see what is it that we are seeing on these times that we are living. Okay, right now, as the COVID-19 pandemic has affected our daily lives, it has also affected the way we behave and the way we use social media. I don't know if you've seen this, but Facebook has reported an increase of 77 million more daily active users. That's a lot. And we have definitely increased a 20% increase of app usage. So that's basically, to give you an idea, a report increase on Facebook use of 50% over the last month before COVID-19. And definitely videos still came. This is what it's bringing the most engagement. Talking about engagement, we are seeing those numbers here. Those may not look like much, but a 1% increase on engagement means a lot. Basically, those numbers that you are seeing here are engagement on all posts, engagement per video, and engagement per photo on the post. And as you can see, all of them are up, which basically is an answer on the fact that we are having more people talking to us on social media. And just so you know, those numbers are numbers comparing 2020 COVID-19 with 2019 Q4. Okay, so now that we understand a little bit the role of social media and the change of behaviors, let's talk about how COVID-19 is disrupting our industry. Okay, I like to start with the first question of the day. We are gonna start with a poll live question. The poll is, what is your current social media approach right now? I would like to understand what is it that you attendees are currently doing on social media. If we could launch the poll, that would be lovely, so you can all answer live. Okay, there we go. So the poll says, what is your current social media approach? Either dark on social media, only listening, reduce posting but still engaging, or are we keeping business as usual? Let's wait. I'll give all of you 1 minute to answer the live poll so we can see if your answers are aligned with what I am bringing you and with what Caroline has to add on her end. Let's wait 1 more minute for all of you to answer that. I can't wait to see those responses. Okay. A few more seconds and we'll close it. Okay, so I think that that's time more than enough. Let's see if we can see the results. Okay, so basically, wow, I'm definitely surprised by this. So 80% is dark on social media, 7% are only listening, and half of you are reducing posting, meanwhile still engaging, and almost a quarter is keeping business as usual. That's definitely a surprise. And I am glad to see those numbers because obviously we are definitely seeing a different approach. So to give you basically a number of what we've been seeing over the last month, 73% of hoteliers have decided to go on full pause, meaning stop posting, stop listening, stop advertising, do nothing. Okay. only 50% decided to keep somehow some content active, and of course, keep monitoring as well. And 12% decided to remain full capacity. But if I am comparing these numbers with all of your answers, that is definitely giving me a lot of hope. So that's definitely good news. Caroline, obviously, now that we've seen the poll on the audience and the current approach that we are seeing on social media, I would like to ask you, what are hospitality companies doing to survive in a COVID-19 world?
Yeah, so well, first, we're definitely White Lodging's in the camp of your guys' 75% there, where we are actually full pause, and mostly because again, our largest flagged portfolio predominantly. So a lot of the brands had given specific guidance to pause, and which were respectful, and I think was the right decision back in mid-March when that happened. So I think it's there's no right or wrong answer into how companies are dealing with this today. And I think, there's a lot of companies making very difficult decisions and really trying to define what survival means to them now and in the future. So for White Lodging, one of our main survival tactics is just trying to focus on a correct, really conservative forecast. And I know that's not a sexy answer, but I think that when we have we have to have the right forecast, we have to have the correct revenue projections, which lead us to some more reasonable budget assumptions. And White Lodging, and I believe this just in general, marketing is a shared support service. We have to support the business, and right now we're just trying to define what the business is. So in order for me to support tactics and a strategy, I have to understand what that new norm looks like. So right now, survival is, again, just trying to have a really strong approach to forecasting. And then also, I can definitely share that we have gone dark on a lot of majority of our paid media channels. Right now, I'm seeing about a 40% reduction in all of my 2020 marketing budget. So that's a significant cut. Most of that is because we've shut down and paused in Q2, deferred in Q3, and or eliminated by Q4. So 40% is a big cut, but again, it's the right thing for the business, and again, how we're defining survival in this new environment.
Yeah, no, definitely. I am definitely agree with the fact that all of us, we've been seeing cuts and budgets decrease. We are seeing companies shutting down their marketing efforts and their digital footprint. So obviously that is going to affect on how hoteliers are capable of communicating with their guests. Actually, we have one of the attendees today was sharing that unfortunately she had instructions for all of her hotels to go dark. And obviously that's limiting how she can interact with those guests. So obviously, what do you think of those hotels or of those companies that have done dark, not only on paid media and on content, but also on community management?
Well, I think, again, I stood behind the guidance and the recommendation to go dark in mid-March, especially for our industry. When you're, investing in, impressions and awareness marketing, and then we're seeing the level of cancellations on the back end, the net production of all of that was just, not worth the continued marketing or even communication. I think a lot of companies hit pause because they didn't know how to they didn't know what to communicate. And the best way to do that. I mean, you think about one of the most intimidating things is with communication and with dialogue, there's a whole new tone for that. And there's a whole new way to deliver that. And there's a whole new set of different customer expectations in that. And I think, I'll get to this later, but I think that that's really intimidating at the hotel level, at the management level, is to how to say something. So a lot of, flagged properties are looking for that guidance from the major global brands. So it's somewhat consistent. And also, so it's somewhat, protected in what we're saying, especially when you get around health and hygiene protocols and communications. So, I think that our industry, our sector is very impacted and vulnerable, in particular when it comes to this, and then kind of wrapping around communications method and protocol and the right and wrong way to speak to our new guests is going to be an interesting thing that all of us are trying to figure out. And I think it's really intimidating at this point into how that's gonna roll out.
100%. Who thought that the world could have stopped traveling, right? That's always what I said, that I would never stop traveling, right? That's what I thought. And I believe that what happened with COVID-19 is that obviously we are facing a big crisis. And like in any other crisis, we need to take the bull by the horns and act on everything, just because we need to build and be able to work in advance proactively against what is coming. I always like to say that when we are facing, let's say, any other crisis like a hurricane or like a negative comment on social media, we know what the timeline looks like. With COVID-19, the challenge is that we had no idea how long it's going to last, right? And obviously, I think that the first impulse that most brands had were go dark, sorry, right? But now we are definitely at a different stage. And I believe that there are a lot of reasons to engage. Obviously, Ross here, another attendee, is sharing with us that he thinks that we still need to communicate, that we need to have empathy and just not sell, but be empathetic, right? And I couldn't agree more with you, Ross. There are definitely reasons on why we should stay active on social. Obviously, when I say stay active, I don't mean business as usual. I mean adapt your tone of voice, identity, your content, your photos, your posts, your paid media strategy, everything that is social media related. And we will give you recommendations on how you can definitely remain active. But the reasons to engage are basically those here on the screen. To start with, people is actively looking for information, right? They are looking to trust on their brands, and they are definitely looking for that message of safety and security. But they also want brands to give them real information, right? To act responsible and do things right. I think that this is the perfect scenario for a company to survive, come up stronger, or damage the reputation very badly if they don't approach things on the right way. So basically, we have to use and leverage on the fact that we have more people than ever on social media just waiting and listening, right? We can definitely gain market share. Why? We have less competitors taking advantage of having so many people on social media. We definitely have to increase our trust and to humanize our brand, right? And I want to open this slide here because obviously in hospitality, travel, and me working for a tech-based company, I think that I've spent all my career talking about digitalization, innovation, disruption, and I don't think that we have ever really embraced what the digital world meant, right? And I wanted to bring those brands at you, like at the Kodak, the Nokia, the blockbusters of the world, right? Those were all companies that had everything to survive and yet failed. Why? Because of innovation, because of digitalization, because of not being able to adapt to what the market was taking them, right? And I want to leave this slide in everyone's mind here today, because we need to embrace what we are living and work and be ready for what is coming, right? So now that we've talked a little bit about social media, the change on the behaviors, and what all of you are doing on social media, and again, I am still very shocked by the fact that half of you are active on social media. Again, this gives me a lot of hope because that makes me believe that all of you are marketers and all of you agree with what Caroline and I have to share with you today. So let's go into the second poll of the day, okay? We are jumping into paid media. Obviously, everybody understands that we have to adapt our content and that we are more likely reducing the cadence of our posting and adapting tone. But I'm interested of hearing what is it that you are doing on paid media. Are you investing into paid media and social right now? Are you investing, or are you planning to invest during the remainder of Q2 in 2020? And the answers are basically no, I don't see the need. No, I have no budget. Yes, but less than before, I have to adjust. Yes, business as usual. And yes, more than before. I'll give you 1 minute. And we have Janet here saying that she's not seeing the poll. Janet, the poll went live right now, so just text us on the chat. Don't see the poll on your screen. And I am hoping that the rest of attendees can see the poll on their screen. I definitely can see this on mine. I'll give you 1 minute to answer, and we'll see the results in a second. And of course, we have attendees saying that some resorts are closed. Yes, but that doesn't mean that you cannot build for what it's coming. If you think about this, you should be treating COVID-19 or this as an opportunity to work on your reopening strategy, right? When you are opening a new hotel, you need to work in advance for when you are open. Same here. Obviously, we have a more difficult scenario right now, but we have to work towards what is coming. Okay, so I believe that yes. Okay, so I just got confirmation that attendees were able to see the poll, so I'm glad. Let's close the poll and see what you have to share about paid media. Okay, so we have a winner. Almost half of you, 44% of you, the answer is no, because you have limited budgets. And that's no surprise. Again, this is linked to the fact that all of us, we are working with a reduced budget structure right now. Surprising to see 50% of you saying that you don't see the need. We'll give you ideas on the whys. I believe that you should, right? We have 30% of you, actually 29%, saying that yes, you're investing a little bit less than before, 6% yes, business as usual, and 7% more than before. That's too little, but again, those are small signs of hope. So definitely, I'm glad to see those results, and let's see what your options are on paid media. Caroline, before talking about paid media, what do you think of these results? Are you surprised of seeing those answers by our audience?
No. I think for us pre-COVID, I mean, about 20% of our actual annual media dollars and our media mix was social. So it was a definite channel that we were investing in on the paid promotional side. Again, limiting, not boosting or not, growing or community building or doing certain ads during this time is just, again, a sense to kind of protect our brand, to make sure that until we get the right tone and we can deliver the right direction on what a message should be, we just want to make sure that we're limiting just to our own pages, our own audiences before we would again go live with any other paid promotions. But I'm not surprised because that's definitely has been our approach as well.
Well, what I'm surprised is with all that I am reading here on the chat, I see a lot of people saying that they don't see the need on investing on paid media because they are closed. And I would like to educate a little bit on social media, because social media, we need to understand that on the marketing approach, we are on the upper funnel, right? So we need to stop thinking about social media equals to direct conversions. Yes, we can bring you that direct conversion, but that's not the ultimate goal of social media, and definitely should not be the goal on COVID-19 environment, right? We should be working towards awareness and engagement. When we are thinking about social media strategy, the first thing that we need to understand is that we are talking to our fans, which basically means people that either have experienced already our destination or our hotel, or that are interested about going, right? Remember at the beginning of the presentation where we were talking about that 80% of people doing research on social media for inspiration? That's exactly the kind of people that we need to target right now. We need to invest on keep up the conversation with them, on keeping them engaged, on helping them cope or dealing with this lockdown situation, right? We need to generate that awareness for when we are open. Right now, we may not be open, but there will be a time where we will be open, and we need to start building towards that. We should definitely focus on community engagement right now, and not on just growing the actual fan base. It's about growing our audience with the right people. Again, this is not about having 1 million followers. It's about having 1 million followers that are caring about what you have to say, right? If not, you just have 1 million followers ignoring you. And that's not what we want on social media. We want to establish that one-on-one conversation. We need to make sure that we are hyper-targeting our audience and making sure that we are communicating the right message. We may want to involve brands because it's very important that we are communicating under that brand umbrella and under those directives that we are all having from brands like Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, and so on. And definitely think about partnering with some local tourism organizations, right? Again, the conversions will come. We will be able to drive future bookings when time is right. Not right now, the time is not right for conversion. So basically, based on BCV's research, and a strategic work with hundreds of hotels, because remember, we've been on the market for more than 10 years and partnering with every other major hotel brand and independently owned hotel in Americas. We know that paid media advertising can definitely help us increase our audience and especially help increase our audience in times of crisis. In a recent study, we are seeing that 80% of people surveyed believe that business should stop advertising. So that means that just the opposite, you should not stop advertising. And paid media has become definitely cheaper during COVID-19, right? Obviously, we have an increased number of users and a decreased number of people investing on paid media. So that basically gives you the opportunity to stand out. Basically, in March 2020, there were 3.5 billion more clicks on Facebook ads compared to the same time on December 2019. So basically comparing March to December, we are seeing a huge increase. And at the same time, we are seeing a decrease on what the CPC cost looks like. Just to give you some numbers on CPC and CBM, in general, Facebook advertising has become cheaper in the recent spike in usage, right? So basically, we are seeing 33% spend decline across all social media, and that is a 65% decrease among the hospitality industry. However, what that means is that the cost per thousand, the CPM, decreased by more than 50%. If you can see the numbers, I am basically comparing here January 2020 with March 2020. So basically pre-COVID-19 and during COVID-19. And as you can see, the CPM is basically decreasing by 50%. And what that cut means is that we can reach, as an advertiser, twice as many people for the same amount of money that we could have done before. So definitely those numbers are telling us that the opportunity for us to engage with the audience is cheaper. And even though your budgets have been decreased, you can take advantage on the decrease on cost and also on the decrease on your competitors' presence on social media, paid media. Caroline, obviously, you have our experience that 40% cut. What do you think of those costs and of those numbers that I just introduced you to?
You know, I think that's something I'm hearing from a lot of other trusted agencies and vendors. You know, that the CPCs are down, there's less competition, and that, you know, that for me as a marketer, I'm saying, great, that's an awesome time to strike. And I think the balance and the rub though becomes, what do we have to, what message and what content do we have to support that paid lift? And I think I'll go back to it. It's really intimidating at the, on the hotel level as to what to say. And, even if we're doing just paid media outside social, what are we boosting, or what are we promoting from an offer perspective or a leisure perspective? And on social in particular, I think right now a lot of it was everyone's kind of constricting because they want to protect the brand. And I do think in the short term, that's the most important thing I can recommend is protect your brand, whatever that means to you in the short term. For us, it meant, we went dark on organic, we stopped all paid social. We minimized messaging capabilities on our pages. For hotels that had temporarily suspended business operations, or for have limited crews within the hotels, it's not fair to ask them to have the same kind of coverage on reviews and taking social media from a brand reputation management standpoint, or checking their DMs when they're dealing with crises within their four walls. And so, in short, I think protecting the brand just said, if you don't have anything useful or informational or providing value, then please stay dark. And that is our message to this day, in alignment with all the global brands. But I think that we're going into kind of what's the next wave of this. And I do think that some of our hotels, are finding their feet and need to start engaging with their guests on social again, organic, of course. And for me, that just means, how do you make social accessible again? How do you get content? I'd love to think that all of our properties, and now it's going to be a sales leader or a director of sales and marketing that's going to have to create this content. And there's the YouTubes, Stay Home With Me, or the Airbnbs have these paid tutorials for their hosts and their guests. And there's Nike has every major brand has some version of a useful form of content during this time. But if my director of sales and marketing, I'm not asking them to be this huge content generator. So how do I make social more accessible? And I think that in one way it's, just asking them to look at what are the major DMOs or CBVs doing in their markets. There's lots of cool stuff happening. Denver has a Denver Through My Window. Austin has Austin at Home. There's lots of great things that are happening at the market level. So just asking my hotels to join in on that conversation, reshare, repost. There's lots of other content that's being generated out there. So to sink back into that really important conversation, maintain that relationship with your guests, with your fans and followers, but do that in a way that you're repurposing rather than creating from scratch. So that's one way. I've also provided really great, cool, just iPhone tips and best practices for the best photos and the best videos. A lot of our sales organizations are staying active on social, whether that's LinkedIn or their personal pages, just with cool site tours. Those are being limited, obviously, with restricted travel. So, it's intimidating to say, make sure your settings are like this, make sure that you're holding the phone in this way, make sure that this microphone is positioned this to get better quality. So I think those are a couple ways, again, that we're reintroducing the engagement on social from an organic content way. And then once we kind of get our footing together, then, obviously look more into the paid realm come Q3 for us.
Well, I am going to say that Gina here on the chat is saying that definitely we need to invest in social media, because ultimately it's all about potential guests. I couldn't agree more, Gina, 100%. I'm also seeing a lot of questions and comments about content. We are getting there. Just to close on the paid media sections here, I just wanted to give you an example. Obviously, I believe that F&B components, restaurants are struggling and are definitely going through a similar fate. Their doors are closed and they have to reinvent themselves. And definitely we are seeing our beloved restaurants trying to be able to survive, right? This is just an example of a hotel that is trying to promote their F&B component. And to the point that I was mentioning before, if you see the CPC here, is even lower than the average that I shared before. And they basically, what they had is 3 times lower CPC than in the average time. So definitely this is giving them much exposure, right? So let's talk about social media relaunch, right? When and how. I kind of mentioned to you earlier before that we need to approach this like any other crisis, right? And while it's definitely difficult to predict when the crisis will pass, I'm by no means a pandemic expert, right? Our suggestion is that you begin planning the strategy as soon as possible, right? You need to be positioned to be the first one to act, right? We need to more likely, and this is kind of the role of the thumb, be planning between 1 to 3 months before the hotel reopens its doors, right? So we need, if you are thinking that your hotel is gonna be opening their doors back to whatever, if it's the domestic or the international, obviously we all could agree that this 2020, we're gonna focus much more in domestic than international travelers. But if you are thinking about reopening in July, you are late in the game. You should be already thinking on your strategy and approaching that proactively, right? We definitely need to establish different phases. We need to start with a low cadence of posting and adapting the content, and then slowly approach that. Obviously, Caroline, even though our recovery date is definitely uncertain and none of us know today, we don't have a crystal ball, right? What are the strategies that you are taking to prepare for the future?
Recovery planning, it's such a big buzzword. It's funny when you ask, like, what exactly does that mean? The different stages of where people are with that. And, you know, I think for us, we're in it, and you know, we're trying to understand what those indicators are. So what would be an indicator to say, okay, now it's safe to come back, you know, with the right message, it's safe to come back with actual paid media. So, you know, we're just defining what that means within our organization. But for the most part, it's, and from a marketing perspective, it's travel demand, right? Planning for when initial travel demand, you know, is coming back, to when it strengthens, to when it's, you know, back somewhat to of a normal. I do believe that there's going to be a big snap. I think that people are, I don't know that'll happen this year or Q1 of next year, but when that's safe, when people start to travel again, I think it's going to be quick, especially on the leisure side. I think that is going to be the first to rebound. And I think that, you know, we're planning in those stages now and working really closely with our operations and our the whole revenue generation team. But it's hard because once you plan something, then news comes out and it changes a week later. But I will say the most steady thing that we're doing is, you know, again, looking at travel demand, defining those KPIs, those really strong indicators, and then holding true to that, and phasing when the hotel then reopens, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, because all that has to be in phases. So that's been our approach so far.
100%. I think that we have to adapt or change by the hour, right? Obviously, we all have to have our long-term plan defined and then just adapt within it, depending on what the state's limitations look like. Obviously, Nancy was sharing here that California is having a different approach than maybe Florida or Chicago or New York. So we definitely have to work with the current market environment. But obviously, I think the beauty of this panel between us, Caroline, today is that obviously you bring the hotelier's perspective, I bring the provider's advice. Our role is to keep pushing and keep telling you the importance of remaining somewhat active, and then slowly start incorporating different things. We are going to talk about a strategy, okay, and definitely key elements. But I think that it's been a while since I launched any poll to the audience, and I don't see that many comments as before. So it's time for you attendees to be active with us. Let's bring you back. Let's launch the last poll of the day. What content are you most tired of seeing? And I don't know about you, but I am so desperately in need to travel that I got myself an Oculus so I could travel virtually from my home, right? And obviously, over the weekend, I had the opportunity to fly over Salto del Angel in Venezuela, or even visit the ancient ruins of Egypt. So I am desperately in need for travel, and I am definitely looking for that social media content. And I am seeing a lot of COVID news, safety messaging, recipes, and do-it-yourself, travel inspiration, and TikTok videos. In your experience, what are you most tired of seeing? We have the poll, and we'll be closing it now. So let's see what you are most tired of seeing. Yes, not a surprise. Stop with the COVID news. We all had enough. We are just tired of seeing negative news all over the world. And I am hoping that after today's webinar, Caroline and I gave you a little bit of sunshine at the end of the tunnel. We are here to spread a little bit of positive vibes and tell you that social media can help you, and we will recover from this. But definitely 61% of you is tired of seeing COVID news. Then it's followed by safety messaging and TikTok videos. However, this is very important. You are not tired of seeing travel inspiration. And again, I remember when I used to work at Marriott, that was my first professional experience. My first boss told me once, Mercedes, don't forget ever, you do not sell beds, you sell dreams. We all want to dream again. And I think that's the power of social media. We can bring that dreaming element back to life and help just keeping that life vibe alive, right? Okay, so let's talk about the key elements. Obviously, we've been talking about adjusting your posting strategy. I agree with you, Caroline. We cannot keep business as usual and post as much as before. One, because we have no content. Two, because we need to adapt and evolve with this. We need to try new formats and tools. Engage real time. This is very important. We need to be unique and establish that one-on-one conversation between Mercedes and Caroline. I don't want to feel like a number. I want to feel like me, the real me, right? We need to start planning for their reopening versus planning for bookings. And this goes to all my general managers. I love you all, but social media is not an OTA, right? This will help you with your revenue, but we need to work in a different direction right now. And of course, we need to work on that comprehensive retargeting effort. So obviously, we need to be sensitive to every specific market situation, as we mentioned. We need to acknowledge the current environment. Video skin, I mentioned this, and I will keep mentioning it, live skin, like we are live right now. Human interaction, differentiate yourself. And obviously just try to be on top of things and be the first trying. Don't be shy of trying. People want you to be trying new ways. So Caroline, obviously there is a lot still to do right now. Looking at Q3 and even Q4 of 2020, right? What needs to be updated to embrace the new opportunities that we can develop on social media, in your opinion?
Well, I as Interactive Advertising Bureau recently did a survey. I don't know if it was April's or March, but it was a more recent one, and they had it. Their survey results indicated that social is going to be one of the first channels to rebound fully, and I do support that. I do think that it is still going to be our main conduit to maintain and really galvanize the relationships that we have. So I think one of the things that will in our recovery planning is going back with messaging on social. I do think there's lots of hesitation, and again, I've said this before, but what that message is, and I saw someone too about the comments about the safety, health and hygiene measures, right? So I think a really interesting thing is like, how do you talk about that in a way that's approachable? We all know that customers want to hear about flexible cancellation policies and what we're doing to protect our associates and our guests. So, how do you do that on social in an authentic way that's useful, that isn't scary? And so I think that's, in talking about our planning for the future, it's how we're going to be addressing those questions. It's really interesting that Google and all the OTAs and TripAdvisors and the Yelps and the Yext all have these new, and Google have all these new COVID fields, these custom fields that you can put into your local listings. So obviously that means that we know that that message is useful. Just how are we going to do that? And I also think with social media in particular, the opportunity is, you mentioned it earlier, but I mean, there's lots of opportunities, and there's going to be hard realities about transferring everything that once was a physical piece, whether that's a compendium, a menu, you know, or a list of, you know, what's happening on property, an events kind of calendar. How are we going to digitize all that? And I think that social media really provides a great opportunity for us to really rethink how we're delivering that, the new digitized version of these in-stay communications, and what that needs to look like. It's definitely going to push us. We haven't looked at that in that way before. And I think with our industry, there's been more, you know, kind of as is, every hotel room has a compendium, but no one, if we have to digitize that, how are we going to communicate that? And social is going to be the easiest way to initially do that. So I think that's going to be an interesting trend too for us in recovery planning, social specific.
You know what I would love to see? Some change, because we've been doing the same over and over again. I mean, hospitality in general, it's a very much traditional industry. And that's something that I like to see after COVID-19. And I actually see a question here. How do we reduce people's fear? That's Ross's question. And Ross, good news. I am going to be basically explaining you different phases for you to build that trust and reduce people's fears. One, it's phase 0. It's severe content. We've been mentioning all over and over again today and at every other webinars that we need to adapt our content in a way that it's human, that it allows to build that trust between your audience and your brand, and just be positive. We are all tired of negative news. This is the Don Cesar example here in Florida. If you are not familiar with this hotel, the hotel is pink. That's the color of the hotel. And they are embracing the pink color just to share some content, some positive content, right? And they have definitely increased their engagement by 36%. Once you have sifted your content, you need to start thinking about how to build your community. Remember that paid media, the cost that it's lower, either with paid and organic, but obviously paid will give you more reach because organic will only give you 3% of reach. We can definitely increase our fan base. If we don't have the money, we can definitely ask our fans to share their experience, tag friends. And here we have some Four Seasons idea. We have this or that edition, just asking for facial or massage, sunrise yoga or sunset yoga. For Washington, share a video and some bed making tips, and also some self-care routines check-ins. So they are definitely talking to the audience and invite them to share, talk, and tag friends. And that's definitely a best practice on UGC, EGC, which is basically user and employee generated content, right? Just show what your staff is doing behind the curtains, right? Obviously, another important thing is thinking about the reopening plan. And this is very important. To your point, Caroline, how are we communicating all those health and healthy measures that we are taking as hoteliers that are basically increasing the trust of the traveler, right? Here we have some examples, and I'm sure that you will recognize this one, Caroline. The White Lodging one, basically they are providing a behind the scenes where they are showing how their employees are basically working and increasing and improving all of the health measures. Hilton, as another example, partner with Lysol, and they are definitely sharing how things are evolving on their end. Just yesterday, I saw a very interesting topic. An old friend of mine was developing some virtual tours, and right now they could click on what are the health measures that you could see on the hotel rooms, like the hand sanitizer as a giveaway or whatever it is, right? So obviously this is phase 2. And last but not least, we have to think about, general managers are gonna love this, booking relaunch, right? Where are we gonna be able to increase number of rooms? Again, we have to be mindful, do this when the time is right, and hyper target. We do not want to target people in Spain, just to name my country, because they are on lockdown and they will not be able to travel overseas, at least in the short term. We are running out of time. We only have 10 minutes left, and I want to open this for questions, but before opening for questions, I think that you are gonna love this. Just some tips and tricks, how to stand out. Well, let's start with the do's. Do create new formats. Do embrace those new formats like Jackson Hole for Season was doing here. And don't leave questions unanswered. Remember that social media is a place for talking to your audience. If they are asking you something, if they are talking to you, do not ignore them. Answer them in real time in a unique way that applies to them, right? So basically, as you can see here, the don'ts are not negative examples because I am telling you or I am showing you examples where hoteliers have done things right? Obviously, don't be scared to leverage strengths. As we could see before, Hard Rock Hotels, they were launching a series of live concerts, and they perform very, very, very well. So we could use that. Engage with your community. We have here Michael Jordan Steakhouse. Let's just engage and ask the audience, right? Again, talk to your audience and definitely inspire. We all want to travel again, and we cannot stop dreaming. Just wish to be there, right? Just let's share those positive vibes with the community. And just to share some positive vibes, just playing here some music, some Spanish guitar, just to bring us the positive mood. And meanwhile, this place, Caroline, what would be your first destination when you travel again?
Oh man, probably Italy, Rome would be my top one.
Italy, Rome, I hear you. That would be ideal. Definitely something, and that's why I wanted to ask you this question. We always have to talk about the future. We may not travel now, but we will travel again. Let's stay positive, stay human, build that trust, because all of us believe that us in hospitality and travel, we have the power to survive and to overcome this crisis stronger. Because I know the same way that you all know that we will travel again. So let's open up for questions. I believe that.
Actually, I wanted to just add a couple just really tactical things to your awesome list of don'ts too. So, just again, very tactical, really avoid any, we all kind of with limited resources for new photography or on property photography, if you're pulling from stock imagery, just be really mindful that you're not, posting photos of large crowds. Really focus more on architectural things of your hotel, really talk about the design elements. There's just, again, stay away from large crowds. Same thing with a lot of promotional content, don't say like, hey, come when everything opens again, when shelter in places are done, come party in our rooftop. Be really sensitive to those tones. I'm even going as far as to say, just avoid too many exclamation points at this point. We all have a tendency to, come travel again, exclamation point. I think that's a really just very, again, tactical, basic thing in terms of delivering the right tone and message. And I think too, when you talk about the promotional aspect on social, don't capitalize on a lot of the, like book rooms and I'm sorry, make it more educational right now than it is promotional. So again, informational, educational rather than promotional. But yeah, those are just a few other just quick tactical things that we're keeping in mind too as we're reintroducing hotels to the idea of going back live on social.
I couldn't agree more. Again, this is about building trust and community, and it is not the time to actively sell our rooms. We will sell them, we will fill our hotels back again, but we will have to be mindful and do that when the right time comes. I believe that we have a lot of questions, much more than we anticipated. So obviously what I would like to do now is you have our contact details information here. You can either find us on LinkedIn as well or email me. Some of you are asking questions that are very tailored to your particular needs. So I would like to say that obviously we are gonna have an open conversation after this. We will be emailing you the recording of the session. Some of you are asking as well. And within that email, you will also receive a link to provide your contact details and your specific questions. And we will make sure to reach out to all of you individually to answer to all of your particular needs. Okay, so there are, again, a lot of questions that are too specific, and social media has to be customized to each of you depending on your product, destination, and target. So we can definitely carry on that conversation offline. But it's been a pleasure, Caroline. I hope that you had fun. I definitely had a lot of fun, and I love that guitar at the very end. It reminds me of home. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for all attendees for being with us today. I must say that this has been one of the most attended webinars that I ever had the privilege of moderating or leading. So thank you all for joining today. I hope that you learn with us, and let's keep this fight. We will definitely overcome this. Caroline, anything else that you would like to add?
No, thank you so much for the opportunity. White Lodging loves our partnership with BCV. You guys have been a great vendor and a great partner, really providing some good thought leadership as you did today. So very proud to be a part of this discussion. There's great attendance and lots of great questions, as you mentioned, coming in. So we'll definitely get back with you guys, but everyone stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you. Well, thank you again. And just keep up the great job. We will survive this. Let's keep the social media going.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.